The galaxy had one simple rule: never call for help from Earth. Not because humans were cruel, not because they were evil, but because everyone knew what Earth was. A death world. A planet where oceans could kill you, storms could tear cities apart, and the creatures living in the wild were more dangerous than many alien soldiers. A world that had produced a species that survived extinction events, fought impossible wars, and looked at the universe not with fear, but with curiosity. For centuries, the Galactic Council kept humanity at a distance. They considered humans unpredictable, too emotional, too aggressive, too willing to sacrifice everything for a victory. So when the first distress signal appeared near the abandoned outer colonies, nobody expected Earth to answer. The signal was perfect. A damaged alien cruiser. A desperate captain. Thousands of innocent lives trapped. Coordinates leading deep into unclaimed space. The message repeated every 6 minutes. Mayday, any civilization receiving this transmission, please help us. The voice sounded terrified. The Galactic Alliance listened. But nobody moved. The coordinates were too dangerous. The area was known as the Shadow Rift, a region filled with asteroid fields, dead planets, and ancient weapons left behind from forgotten wars. Then someone made a suggestion. Send it to Earth. The room went silent. Everyone turned toward the speaker. You want humans to respond? The alien commander smiled. Yes. Because this was not a rescue mission. It was a test. For decades, the galaxy had feared humanity's growing power. Their ships were becoming faster. Their weapons were becoming stronger. Their influence was spreading. But no one had ever seen the true limits of human compassion. So the enemy created a trap. They believed humans were emotional. They believed humans would rush into danger to save strangers. And they were right. 3 hours after the signal reached Earth, every major human military channel received the transmission. Admiral Sarah Vance watched the message replay on the command deck of the UNS Resolute. Around her, officers waited. Everyone knew the risks. Everyone knew the rumors. The Shadow Rift was not a place where ships disappeared. It was a place where entire fleets vanished. Admiral, one officer said carefully, this could be a trap. Sarah stared at the distress signal. Of course it is. The bridge became quiet. The officer looked confused. You know. Sarah nodded. No distress call this clean is real. The pause. Then why are we going? The admiral looked through the massive viewport at Earth hanging below them. The blue planet. The Deathworld. The place where humanity learned one important lesson. You never leave someone behind. Because whoever sent this signal made one mistake. She stood. They thought they were calling prey. The engines of the UNS Resolute ignited. Across Earth, thousands of ships prepared for launch. The galaxy watched in disbelief. Humanity was moving. Not with one ship. Not with a small rescue team. But with an entire battle group. And as the fleet entered hyperspace, the enemy waiting in the Shadow Rift smiled. They believed the trap had worked. They believed humans had walked willingly into their grave. They had no idea. Earth was not sending rescuers. Earth was sending a warning. The Shadow Rift had claimed thousands of ships. Ancient civilizations avoided it. Galactic merchants marked it as forbidden territory. Even military commanders refused to enter its darkness. But now, something impossible was happening. A human fleet was approaching. Not hiding. Not moving cautiously. Coming directly toward the trap. The enemy watched from the hidden command station buried inside an asteroid moon. Commander Varek smiled as the human ships appeared on his tactical screen. Only one battle group? His officers checked the data. Yes, Commander. 1 carrier. 12 destroyers. 4 cruisers. The room filled with laughter. That is humanity's famous response? They crossed half the galaxy for a damaged ship? Varek leaned back. He had studied humans for years. Their emotions. Their history. Their wars. He knew their weakness. Humans cared too much. They would sacrifice themselves for strangers. And that made them easy to destroy. Allow them to enter, Varek ordered. Do not fire until they reach the coordinates. The officers nodded. The trap was ready. Hidden weapons platforms powered up inside the asteroids. Thousands of automated cannons moved into position. Cloaked warships prepared to surround the human fleet. The plan was simple. Let the humans come close. Then erase them. But the enemy did not understand one thing. Humans had survived on Earth for millions of years because they learned something every predator eventually learns. When you enter dangerous territory, you do not walk in blind. You study the battlefield first. Inside the UNS Resolute, Admiral Sarah Vance watched hundreds of enemy signals appear around them. Her tactical officer looked nervous. "Admiral, confirmed hostile contacts. Multiple ships. They are completely surrounding us." Sarah looked at the display. "How many?" "Over 200. A silence filled the bridge. 200 enemy warships against one human fleet. Most species would panic. Humans calculated. Sarah smiled slightly. "Good." The officer turned. "Good." "Yes." She pointed at the screen. "They wanted us to see them." The crew stared. "What do you mean?" "They are not hiding anymore because they believe we are trapped." The admiral walked toward the command table. "Which means they already think they won." A warning appeared. The enemy broadcast a message. A face appeared on the screen. "Commander Varric. Human vessel. You have entered restricted space. Your rescue mission has failed. Your ships are surrounded." The bridge remained silent. Varric continued. "You are facing forces hundreds of times greater than your own. Surrender, and perhaps some of your crew will survive." Sarah looked at him. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then she activated the transmission. "This is Admiral Sarah Vance of the United Earth Fleet." Varric smiled. "Finally, you understand your situation." Sarah looked directly into the camera. "No." The smile disappeared. "You misunderstand yours." The enemy commander frowned. Sarah continued. "You sent a fake distress signal because you wanted to know if humans would come." She paused. "Well, now you know." Behind her, the human fleet began changing formation. The destroyers moved forward. The cruisers spread apart. The carrier opened its massive launch bays. Thousands of drones and fighters emerged. Varric's expression changed. "What are they doing?" His officer stared at the data. "Commander." "What?" "They are not preparing to escape." The pause. "They are preparing to attack." For the first time, fear appeared in the enemy commander's eyes. Because he finally understood the truth. Humans did not come into the Shadow Rift expecting a rescue mission. They came knowing it was a trap. And they came anyway. The human fleet moved closer. Admiral Vance gave one final order. "All ships. Show them why Earth was classified as a death world." The stars around the Shadow Rift exploded with light. The battle had begun. The first shot of the battle was not fired by the enemy. It was fired by humanity. For centuries, alien civilizations believed human weapons were built around destruction. They were wrong. Human weapons were built around survival. The moment the UNS Resolute entered combat range, its massive energy cannons activated. Blue-white beams crossed the darkness of space. The first wave of enemy ships vanished before they could even react. Inside the enemy command station, silence replaced confidence. What just happened? Commander Varric stared at the tactical screen. 3 warships. Gone. Not damaged. Not disabled. Destroyed. His officers rushed to analyze the attack. Human weapon output is far beyond our estimates. Varric stood. That is impossible. The galaxy had spent decades studying humanity. They knew Earth's ships were powerful. But nobody expected this. Because humanity had never shown its true military capability. They always held something back. The reason was simple. Earth remembered what happened when civilizations became too confident in their own strength. They destroyed themselves. So humanity built weapons not to conquer the galaxy, but to make sure nobody could ever conquer Earth. The enemy fleet moved forward. Thousands of missiles launched from hidden platforms. The darkness of space filled with fire. "Incoming weapons," shouted the human tactical officer. Admiral Vance remained calm. "Activate the shield network." The human fleet changed formation. The destroyers moved in front. The cruisers formed a defensive wall. The carriers stayed behind, protected by layers of advanced shielding. The missiles reached them and disappeared. The enemy watched in disbelief. Their strongest weapons had failed. How? Varek whispered. How are they stopping everything? Nobody answered. Because nobody knew. The truth was that Earth had spent centuries preparing for a war nobody believed would happen. Humanity came from a planet where every species had evolved weapons. Poison. Intelligence. Earth itself was a battlefield. And humans learned from it. They built ships the same way nature built predators. Adaptable. Resilient. Dangerous. On the human bridge, another officer reported. Admiral, enemy ships are attempting to surround us. Sarah looked at the display. Let them. The officer hesitated. Let them? Yes. The enemy fleet moved closer. They believed they were trapping humanity. But the moment they crossed a certain distance, every human ship changed direction. The formations split apart. The enemy suddenly found itself surrounded. Not by numbers. By strategy. The hunters had become the hunted. Impossible, shouted Varek. How did they predict our movements? His intelligence officer looked terrified. Because they knew we would use this tactic. Varek turned. They knew. The officer nodded. They studied us before entering the system. A cold realization spread through the command room. The fake distress signal was supposed to reveal humanity's weakness. Instead, it revealed the enemies. They had shown humans their entire battle plan. Every weapon. Every position. Every weakness. The human fleet was not fighting blindly. They had walked into the trap carrying a map of it. Suddenly, a new signal appeared. A massive object emerged from hyperspace behind the human fleet. The enemy sensors failed to identify it. What is that? Varek asked. Nobody answered. Because even the humans had not mentioned it. The object was larger than any ship in the battle. An enormous black and silver warship with the symbol of Earth glowing across its hull. The enemy commander stepped backward. No. The officer looked confused. You know that ship? Varek stared at the approaching vessel. Every civilization knew the legend. The ship that had not been seen for 50 years. The ship that had defeated impossible enemies. The ship that made entire empires retreat. The humans didn't send a rescue fleet. Varek whispered. They sent their warning. The massive ship powered up its weapons. Across the galaxy, every listening station received the same message. A human voice. Cold. Unmistakable. You attacked our rescue mission. The pause. You threatened our people. Another pause. Now you will learn why Earth was never meant to be challenged. The legendary human warship moved forward. And the enemy fleet finally understood. They were not fighting a species that survived a Deathworld. They were fighting the species that conquered one. The arrival of the ancient human warship changed everything. For decades, the galaxy believed it was only a legend. A story told by old commanders. A myth created to frighten enemies. But now it was real. The UNS Titan Vanguard drifted through the battlefield like a moving planet. Its armor carried scars from forgotten wars. Its massive engines burned with the power of a small star. And on its hull was the symbol every civilization recognized. The enemy fleet stopped firing. Even the most aggressive commanders hesitated. Because they knew the name. The Titan Vanguard was not just a ship. It was a message. A reminder. Humanity did not survive because it was lucky. Humanity survived because it refused to lose. Inside the enemy command station, Commander Varek watched the impossible scene. Why was this ship never detected? His intelligence officer looked through the data. Because it was never supposed to be found. Varek turned. What does that mean? The officer swallowed. The humans built it during the First Galactic War. The room became silent. The First Galactic War ended 300 years ago. Yes. Then why is it here? The officer looked terrified. Because humans never stopped preparing for the next one. On the UNS Titan Vanguard, Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge. He looked at the enemy fleet surrounding them. Hundreds of ships. Thousands of weapons. An entire armada waiting to destroy them. His crew waited for the order. "Captain," the weapons officer said, "we can eliminate their command ships in seconds." Elias remained silent. The crew knew that silence. It meant he was thinking. Finally he spoke. "No." The bridge turned. "No." The captain looked at the enemy fleet. "They sent a fake distress call because they wanted us to become monsters." He paused. "We will not give them that satisfaction." Instead of destroying everything, the Titan Vanguard sent a transmission. The enemy commander appeared on screen. Varric looked nervous now. Not confident. Not arrogant. Afraid. Captain Elias spoke. "You wanted to know why humans answer distress calls." Varric said nothing. "Because once, long ago, humanity was alone." The captain looked toward the stars. "We know what it feels like to call for help and hear nothing." The enemy commander remained silent. "That is why we came." The pause. "But you made a mistake." Varric narrowed his eyes. "What mistake?" Elias looked directly at him. "You confused kindness with weakness." The human fleet moved. Not attacking. Positioning. Every enemy ship suddenly found itself locked by human targeting systems. No weapons fired. No explosions. Just complete control. The enemy fleet was defeated without a single major battle. The galaxy watched in disbelief. A force that had planned to destroy humanity was now completely powerless. Then Varric did something unexpected. He asked a question. "Why?" Captain Elias looked confused. "Why did you spare us?" The answer came instantly. "Because we are humans." Varric stared. "That is your reason?" "Yes." The captain stepped closer to the transmission screen. "We are not dangerous because we enjoy destruction." The pause. "We are dangerous because when someone threatens innocent lives." The human fleet powered up behind him. "We become impossible to stop." Across the galaxy, millions watched the event unfold. The fake distress signal. The planned ambush. The impossible human response. History was being rewritten. The species everyone underestimated had shown the galaxy something terrifying. Earth did not send its strongest ships when it wanted war. Earth sent them when someone crossed a line. And now everyone understood the same truth. Never fake a cry for help, unless you are prepared for the entire Deathworld to answer. The Shadow Rift became the most studied region in the galaxy. Not because of the battle, but because of what happened after. Every civilization expected humanity to destroy the enemy fleet. They expected revenge. They expected the Deathworld species to unleash its full fury. So, humanity did something nobody predicted. They offered mercy. The hundreds of enemy ships were disarmed. Their weapons systems were disabled. Their crews were rescued. Every soldier who had entered the battle expecting death found themselves being treated by human medical teams. It confused them. They had attacked Earth. They had created a fake distress signal. They had planned to erase an entire human fleet. Yet humans saved them. Commander Varric walked through the medical section of the UN's Titan Vanguard in silence. He saw injured enemy soldiers receiving treatment from human doctors. No anger. No hatred. Only help. He finally found Captain Elias Ward. "I do not understand your species." Elias looked at him. "That is common." Varric looked around. "You defeated us completely. You could have destroyed everything." "Yes." "Then why didn't you?" The captain looked at the stars outside the window. "Because winning a battle is easy." He turned back. "Winning what comes after is harder." Varric remained silent. For the first time in his life, he understood something about humanity. Humans were not dangerous because they loved war. They were dangerous because they could survive it. They could fight harder than anyone. And still choose peace afterward. Weeks later, the Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. Every major civilization attended. The topic was simple. Humanity. For years, they had debated whether Earth was a threat. Now there was no debate. The council leader stood before thousands of representatives. "We misunderstood humans." The room remained silent. We believed their emotions made them weak. The pause. We were wrong. Across the galaxy, the story spread. The fake distress signal. The hidden fleet. The impossible response. The day Earth answered. Young alien civilizations began studying human history. They discovered something surprising. Humans had always been this way. On their own planet, they crossed oceans. They explored unknown lands. They entered impossible environments. They reached the stars. Every time someone said something was impossible, humans tried anyway, because Earth had taught them a lesson no other world could teach. Survival belonged to those who adapted. And humanity had adapted more than any species in existence. Months after the Shadow Rift incident, a new message appeared across the galaxy. It was not a threat. It was not a warning. It was a simple statement from Earth. To every civilization listening, the message continued. If you send a genuine call for help, humanity will answer. The pause. But if you create suffering for the innocent. Another pause. Remember the Shadow Rift. The message ended, and the galaxy never forgot. Because that was the day everyone learned the truth. Earth was not dangerous because it was a death world. Earth was dangerous because it created humans. A species that could stand against impossible odds. A species that could face entire fleets alone. A species that refused to abandon anyone who needed help. The galaxy once laughed at humanity. Then it feared humanity. But after the Shadow Rift, it respected humanity. Because the universe finally understood. The most terrifying thing about humans was not their weapons. Not their ships. Not their power. It was their promise. When someone cries for help, Earth will answer.